Hello everyone, I'm Aditya. I'm the Chief Technology Officer of Advisor.com, and today we are going to talk about JavaScript conditionals. So let's have a quick look at the topics that we have at hand. So we will be covering the following concepts. We'll be talking about what are JavaScript conditionals. Then we will combine these JavaScript conditionals with different operators and the data types that we have learned previously. Okay, to create real life conditions, real life programs. Okay, so we will learn how to apply conditional logic to programming in JavaScript. Then we'll talk about a special kind of an operator called ternary operator in JavaScript. This is my favorite. And then we will talk about some do's and don'ts that you have to follow while using conditionals in your program. So let's start with the first topic. First thing first, let's get a better editor. Okay, so till this point, we were either using JS Fiddle or our Notepad to write the JavaScript program. But from this point onwards, the programs are going to be a bit bigger in size. We are going to write a bit bulkier program, which is going to contain more than 10-15 lines that we are used to. So I would recommend to get a personal editor. If you are already a programmer, then you must be already using an editor like Notepad++ or Visual Studio Code or Visual Studio, or Strong or any kind of editor. So if you are already using any editor or any IDE, you can use it. You're free to go. It doesn't really matter as long as you're writing a correct program. Okay. For me, my personal favorite is Sublime Text. It's very simple. It's very good in terms of UI, and I would highly recommend it for any beginner. Okay, so if you just click on this link that is given, or you can just go to the website of Sublime Text in the browser. You can download Sublime Text from there. I've already downloaded it on my computer and installed it. Okay, so you can just go to the website, click on this download button. Okay, and you can download the editor according to whatever operating system you are working on. Okay, so mine is Linux, so I have used the Linux version. You can use your own. Okay, so I would strongly recommend that you should not continue programming in simple Notepad now. Okay, and you should get an editor before you proceed any further, because otherwise these programs are going to be bulky and they're going to get complicated real soon, and you will not find the UI or the experience very easy going. Okay, so this is what these IDEs are meant to do. So please get this IDE, download this in your computer, pause this video at this point. Okay, download it, install it, open your working folder in that, and then continue the video. Okay, so let's move on. I've already done all these things, so I'll just assume you have paused the video now and you are doing it, and then we'll continue to the programming. So to start with the topic of conditions, as you already know, like in real life also, when we communicate, there are a lot of conditions involved. Okay, I've just given you some possible real life conditions here. Like if a person has, if I'm a website owner and I'm giving some promo codes, I can put this logic that if the person has purchased more than 3 items in a month, give him a promo code. Okay, or if I'm a university, I will have this condition that if the student is scoring more than 90% marks, he's a topper, give me that data. Okay, or if like we have designed Advisor.com, we have put this logic that if the candidate is getting more than X score in learning stage on Advisor.com, move him to project stage, else ask him to earn more score. If he has Y score in project stage, move him to hiring stage. So you in your current learning experience also, you move some according to some condition. That condition is or the score that is given here, X, Y, that is calculated on the basis of an algorithm, obviously. Okay, but there is a certain defined point which you have to achieve to get further. So this is a condition. In real life also this is a condition, and also when you program it in your application, that's this kind of condition has to be programmed. But till now we have not learned anything to how to program these kind of conditions in JavaScript. Again, another condition is given here: if the match is not cancelled, we will watch it, or else it will be a movie night. So just to make this point simpler, it's more like in real day-to-day communication, a lot of our decisions, a lot of our communication revolves around conditions. So we are going to now learn how to write these conditions in the JavaScript world. Okay, so let's start with that. So in JavaScript world, the way these conditions are written are basically comprised of two parts. One is the special keyword that is involved, or the technique we are using. Okay, and the second is the logic which is to be executed when this condition is met. Okay, so when I say condition, what I really mean to say is, we will be doing some kind of comparison between two things. It can be a comparison of a string data, or number data, or anything. Okay, and we will be making a decision based on that, just like we do in our real life. Okay, so there are some tricks and techniques to write these conditions. Okay, we will be learning them in the following slides. Okay, but I just wanted to stress the keywords that are involved in that. So these are the four keywords that are very crucial to conditional programming in JavaScript. First is if. If contains the block of the code which is to be executed if a certain condition is true. So we will literally write if, and then there's some syntax to be followed, which we will learn right now. Okay, and if you write that syntax correctly, and if you write that condition correctly, JavaScript will check that condition. Okay, perform that calculation for you, and then based on that results, it will execute a piece of code that you've written inside it. Okay, then there is an else if condition if you want to check for more than two conditions. Okay, and then there is an else condition which which executes when all the conditions are false. Let's say you have checked for 3-4 conditions and all of them are false, then the else block is executed. Similarly, there is a switch block which is an alternative to else if and else if else. Okay, and it specifies many alternative blocks of the code to be executed based on condition. So we will be learning then how to use these things, okay, in our program step by step. So let's start with the most popular one, that is if else. Okay, let's see what is the syntax that is involved and how to write that in our program. So the first technique is if and else. Okay, so if and else are each other nemesis, as the presentation says. Okay, and it's really true, because they are both each other's enemy. So if one condition is true, second one cannot be true, and so on. So the syntax in which this is written is something like this. You have to first write if keyword. Okay, then you have to put a bracket around it. Okay, and that bracket you will write your condition, whatever that condition is. Don't worry, we'll have a look at what kind of conditions there can be. Okay, so that you can understand this better in real life. And then you have to start a curly bracket. Okay, and then end the curly bracket, and between that curly bracket you have to write the piece of code that you want to execute if this condition is true. Okay, and then let's say this condition is not true, then you will write the piece of code here. Okay, so if the condition is met, this piece of code will be executed, else this piece of code is executed. So this is quite literal in sense. You can actually read it and make sense out of it. Okay, but we'll see a few examples to put this into context in programming. So let me just shoot up my Sublime Text window and show you a if else condition. Okay, let's do that. So like I told you, I've already installed Sublime Text in my computer, and I've already opened the folder inside it. Okay, so you can do the same on your system as well. And for opening the folder, you can just go to the menu and click on open folder, and you can select the folder from your computer. Okay, I've already done that for my computer. The files that we were working with, the JS file and the HTML file, you can see they are listed here, and I'm able to open them with one click here only. Okay, so let's try to write our first condition that was there, that is item purchased. Like if the person has purchased more than 3 items, then give him the promo code. Okay, so I can just write a simple program for this. I've actually prepared that for you. I'm just going to copy paste it here, okay, and walk you through to save some time. Okay, obviously it doesn't make sense I just type it around. Okay, that's going to take a lot of time, and you'll have to wait for me to complete. Okay, I guess I should probably make it a little more readable, so I'll put some lines in between. Okay, so I hope this is clear to you in terms of the looks. Okay, so as you can see, I've written a JavaScript program. Now there is something new to learn here. Okay, the new thing is this window.prompt. Okay, this is something new, that is something that you've not seen before. Okay, I am using this to take input. Okay, so don't worry, I'll just run this program for you, and then you'll know what's really happening in this program. Okay, but notice the condition here. So what I'm doing is I'm storing the items purchased. I'm asking the user, please tell us the number of items he has purchased. Okay, and if the item purchased is greater than 3, I'm showing an alert that you have got a promo code. Else, I'm saying that you are not eligible for a promo code. So just like we wrote in that logic, that if the user has purchased more than 3 items, then you can give him a promo code or not. Okay, so we are just putting that condition in a simple program here. Now let's try to run this program and see what happens. Okay, so that you can see the action of this window.prompt statement that I've written. Okay, this is now nothing but a simple function. You can actually see it like this. Okay, so let me just run this and show it to you. Okay, so I'll just put my browser up front. Okay, I'll press refresh and it says please tell us the number of items purchased. Okay, so I'll just write 4 and it says you've got a promo code. Why? Because 4 is greater than 3. So it's able to check the condition that okay, whatever number I've input, whether it's greater than 3 or not, and based on that it's able to make a decision. Let me run it again for you. Let's put a different number. Okay, this time I'll put 1 and it says you are not eligible for a promo code. Why? Because I put a number less than 3. Now going back to our program, okay, if I see, I've exactly written the same thing. Only new thing that you have written, we have written here is window.prompt, and you have already seen what it does. What it really does it, whenever I write this statement window.prompt and some text inside it, this text along with an input is prompted to me, and whatever value I put here, okay, in that input, in the browser, that is stored into this variable. Okay, let me show it to you again just so that you are clear. Okay, when I hit refresh in this browser, see what is happening. It says first of all, this message is coming. This page says this is by default window, this is by default in your browser. Now it's showing please tell us the number of item purchased. This is the exact line that I have written there in my program. Okay, and then it's showing me a text box. Okay, obviously in real life the websites don't take the input like this. Everybody knows that we have beautiful forms, etc. But since we are not learning website design right now, we are learning JavaScript, so I've just used this temporary solution to make things easier for you. Okay, I don't want you to start learning forms, etc. in this level. That will come in Java design part of, obviously. Okay, so don't worry. For that time being, we'll just take the input in the form of this text box only. Okay, so when I enter anything here, okay, what's really happening is that value is getting stored into a variable in our program, which in which we have declared this statement. So in this case, we are storing the variable, we are storing the value in variable items purchased. Now my program says if item purchase is greater than 3. Okay, so this greater than is something that you learned in the previous video on operators. Okay, and you know that greater than sign means it's comparing whatever number I'm inputting here to this number and then making a decision. So this is how if else work. If the syntax again is same. First I write the keyword if, then I write this opening and closing bracket. Inside that I put a condition. In this condition I have taken a help of a operator that we have learned. You can literally write anything. Okay, you can put any kind of operator based condition, or you can check any kind of function, or you can put boolean values here. So any kind of condition can be programmed here. Obviously I cannot teach you all the kinds of condition in one video, so we will just follow our loop only, our decision, our format only. We will keep on writing more and more programs so that we can understand what kind of conditions can be written here. So for the time being, I just wanted you to focus on the syntax. So I hope you have got the syntax. Okay, if statement, if block has a opening and closing bracket, else block has a opening and closing bracket. It's not necessary that you write else here. You can also put an enter and write else separately, but it's really suggested that you write it along like this. It's more readable, it's more beautiful. Okay, so it's your choice, whatever you choose. Okay, that's perfectly up to you. So this is a simple condition we have written. Now let's try to write a much more complicated condition where there is not only one check but there are two checks. Okay, so now I want to write a program where I'm not just performing this one check, I'm performing two checks, and then if both are failing, then I want to define something else. Okay, so let's do that. For checking multiple conditions, we have this format. Okay, so you have to write an if statement first, okay, just like in the previous case. Then you have to write else if instead of writing just else. Okay, so there is an else if condition that is there which checks for a second condition. So this is the decision, this is how the decision is made in the program. in the first computer checks, whether this condition is true or not. If it's true, it executes whatever is written inside this block. Okay, then if it's false, it moves to this, the second part, that is else if. Then it checks the condition 2 and checks whether the condition 2 is true or not. So if the condition 1 is false and condition 2 is true, then this piece of code is executed. And if both are false, okay, both are not meeting the condition, then this else block will be executed. Okay, so obviously it's good to define it this way. You should not leave any kind of conditions unattended. Okay, so don't worry, we'll come to that in the last part of the discussion. But still, it's always I would recommend, it's always necessary to include else statement along with an if or if else if statement. Okay, so please don't forget to define the case where none of the conditions are meeting. Okay, now let's try to see a complicated example of the same in our JavaScript program. For this part, I'm going to just modify my existing program and check for a condition where the item purchased are 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press enter and I'll write else if. Okay, I'll write items purchased is equal to 3. Okay, so this is checking for whether my whether I purchased exactly 3 items or not. Okay, and then I'll write alert purchase one more item and you will get a promo code. Okay, so I'm telling the user, asking the user to purchase one more item so that he gets another promo code. Okay, and then obviously then there is an else statement which says that you are not eligible for promo code. Now I've saved this program. Let's try to run it in our browser. Okay, so when I open my browser, I press refresh. Now there are 3 cases. One case is where the product number is less than 3. So let's test that. I'll just enter 2. It says you are not eligible for the promo code. Now the second case is when the number is greater than 3. Okay, so then in that case it says you have a promo code. Okay, but the middle case that we have defined, that says that if the number is 3, it will show a different message. It says purchase one more item and you will get a promo code. Okay, so this way you can couple or group multiple statement together in one if else block. Okay, or sorry, one else block, I should say, probably, right? Because it's not just if else block, but you get the gist, right? This is how you can just group multiple conditions in one piece of code. Okay, test for them one by one and then display custom results based on that. Okay, so this is how you use else if in between if and else. Okay, so I hope you got the syntax. The syntax is something that you have to focus. Obviously, don't worry. You will be using this a lot in your coming program. This is primarily one of the things which is like there a lot in the day-to-day programs, because obviously you are doing programming to write some logic. Okay, and logic involves conditions. So you will face multiple scenarios across your career where you have to write this kind of code in your day-to-day life. Okay, so let's do that. Let's follow the same format. Okay, and move on to the next topic. Now you all must be wondering, what if we want to combine multiple conditions in a single if? Okay, yes, we have performed a check. Yes, we have written multiple conditions in different if and else if statement. But what if I want to check multiple condition in one go? Okay, can I group them together? Okay, so basically we can use a different category of operators which we left in the previous discussion, that is logical operators, to do that. Okay, so there are 3 kinds of logical operators available in our programming languages. Okay, one is OR, whose symbol is this double dash. Okay, and that is to check for presence of either of the conditions. So whenever you try to group 2 or more conditions together using OR, it checks whether first one is true or the second one is true or the third one is true. If any of them is true, then it gives you a true value in the return, a boolean value in the return that says true. Okay, the condition is true and you can write the program based on that. Second condition is AND, okay, which is written using 2 ampersands. Okay, and it says make sure that both the conditions are true. Okay, and third one is NOT, which is written using exclamation mark, and it says make sure that this condition is not there. Okay, so this is the way you check the logical conditions in a program. If you are already a programmer, obviously you already know these things because these are common to all the programming languages. And even if you come from like a engineering background, you will probably must have learned this thing called digital logic design, or basic electronics. You must have seen this logical operators, true false, false true cases, etc. Okay, so this is basically the same thing in programming. Okay, so let me just give you an example, different example actually this time, so that you can get a context of what we are trying to do using these operators. So let's write the program in Sublime Text. So in this program, we are trying to determine whether a student is topper or not. So we are taking input from the user about how many marks he has got, and based on the logic that if he has got more than 90% marks, we will tell him whether he is a topper or not. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, this is a very difficult program. You must be the people who are looking at this for the first time, or people who are non-programmers, they must be really scared by this, because this is the biggest piece of code probably that we have written in JavaScript till now, right? So don't worry. Okay, I'll run this program for you first in the browser. I'll show you how it works. Okay, and then we will break down this one by one, line by line. Okay, and then you will understand what is the logic involved. Okay, so let me just open my browser. Okay, trust me, when we break it down, it's going to get very simple. Okay, so I have my browser open. I'll press refresh, and it says please enter the marks obtained. Let me just put some random value, let's say 80, which is less than 90. It says false. That means I'm not a topper. Okay, I've just printed false. I could also print you are not a topper or something like that, but I guess that would be just hurting to somebody's feeling, right? I scored a lot of 80 and 85s in my school time, so I would definitely be hurt. Okay, so yeah, let me put 96. Okay, and it says true. That means I'm a topper. Okay, and if I try to leave it empty, it says invalid input. Okay, so I'm getting three kind of different results based on different kind of inputs I'm providing. Obviously by now you know that must have been written using conditionals, that is if else logic. But how did we write that? So let me just revisit the code and break it down one by one. So the logic I've used here is very simple. First, I'm declaring a variable var is topper is equal to false, which is a boolean value. Okay, then I'm writing var marks obtained is equal to windows.prompt please enter the marks obtained. Okay, which is something that I'm taking from user. Okay, and then I've written a bunch of logic here to give the result. Now before I walk you through the logic, I want to say just one thing. A lot of people struggle at this part. A lot of people say that how do you get to that logic? See guys, this is something that is going to come to you step by step. Logic for solving a particular problem, there can be n number of solutions. Like I'm just presenting you one of the solution, and it may not necessarily be my best solution. Actually, I can optimize this program 100 times actually, and I can write a very better program, but I've just given you a simpler version of it. So what I'm trying to say is there can be n number of solution for a simple problem statement. As a programmer, what you have to do, just like I told you in the learner's loop, you have to come with one of the logic that works. Okay, use it, iterate it, apply it, and then if you are not satisfied with it, if you are still the curious kind, you can learn how to optimize it. Okay, so when the statement came to me, the problem statement was, if the guy has scored 90% marks, more than 90% marks, he's a topper. Okay, so you have to write a program which takes input in the form of number. Okay, and tells user whether he's a topper or not. Okay, so then I pushed this statement to my mind, and I thought, okay, what can be the logic? Now I know operators, now I know conditionals. Let's just take input from the user, and then compare that input with some first of all, let's validate that input, whether that is a valid input or not. Okay, and then if it's a valid input, then I should probably just calculate the percentage of marks obtained. I already know how to calculate the percentage. It's a mathematical formula that we have learned right in the childhood. Okay, and then if the percentage is greater than 90, I'll just say that he's a topper. Otherwise I'll just say he's not a topper. Okay, and so on. So and then once I concluded, okay, this is going to be my programming logic. Now I will write in my program. So I've declared a variable var is topper, which is false. Okay, then so I'm trying to store whether the guy the guy who has entered these marks, whether he's a topper or not, in a boolean value. Okay, then I've taken the marks obtained as an input from the user using this window.prom method that we have just learned a couple of slides ago. Okay, and then my conditions start. First is if condition. It says if marks obtained is equal to undefined or null, or marks obtained is equal to empty. Notice the these symbols here. These are the or condition that we just saw in the presentation. Or, see, so or checks for the presence of either of the conditions. Now if I go to my program, what's now, if I try to read this statement, what it's really saying is, if marks obtained is equal to undefined, okay, or it's null or it's empty, then say that it's an invalid input. So basically it's performing a check of the data to make sure that it's not an invalid data. Okay, so in JavaScript usually you should perform this check at least, that whether the input that you are getting from user, it's not undefined or null or an empty string. This kind of validation is really required. Okay, so I would highly recommend that when you are writing your JavaScript programs on your computer, you should perform these kind of checks to make sure that your program captures all these conditions, because if it doesn't, it will definitely crash, and that will end up in a bad user experience. Okay, so I've just put an invalid input in this condition. Then I'm checking for another condition using else if. It says else if marks obtained is less than equal to 0 and marks obtained is greater than equal to 100. Okay, in fact it should not be and, it should be or. Okay, apologies here, I'm not sure how I wrote this. Okay, so if marks obtained is less than equal to 0 or marks obtained is greater than equal to 100, it says input a number between 0 to 100. Again, equal to should not be there because a guy really can score a 0, yeah, and 100 also. So in this statement, I've made a use of two different things. One is the comparison operator and the logical the logic operator or. And it says if the marks is less than 0 and marks is greater than 100, so you have to tell the user you have to input a number between 0 to 100. Why? Because I'm just assuming that the total marks in the exam is 100. Total marks, or the highest marks that are involved, is 100. Okay, that is the usual case in most of the colleges and universities and etc. Okay, so if I run it in my browser and check this condition, let's check that. If I enter a number greater than 100, let's say 1000, it says input a number between 0 to 100. That is really required, because we don't want the percentage to go more than 100%, right? That doesn't make sense. So this is another check that I have performed to make sure that my code is very robust. It's ready to take up the percentage and the like calculate the percentage and etc. Okay, now the else condition comes. So in this case, I am performing two checks using if, and then if both the checks are false, that means okay, I've got the correct data. Now I'm going to deal with this. Okay, how I'm going to deal with this? I'm going to calculate the percentage of marks that this person has actually obtained, and I'm going to compare that percentage. So first let's calculate the percentage. For calculating the percentage, this is the piece of code which is calculating the percent. Okay, so it ends here. Okay, so I've written three statements here. One is marks obtained is equal to number marks obtained. Again, this is something new. See, these are some special methods that are available in JavaScript. You will learn about them later on in the later, I guess it's the second last video in the whole introduction to JavaScript series. Okay, so we'll learn about these special methods. But for the time being, I just want you to remember that whenever you want to convert anything in JavaScript to number, you have to write it something like this, number, then opening and closing bracket, and then whatever is the variable that you want to convert into number. So what I'm saying in this statement is convert marks obtained into a number. Why I am doing that is because by default any kind of input in JavaScript is string. Okay, so this is one of the things that comes with JavaScript. Anything by default in JavaScript is string until unless you have specified it otherwise. Okay, so just to be on the same page, just to be sure that I am not calculating my percentages with string, I've actually written a number here. Okay, and I'm converting my string input into number. We've all seen the difference between the two. Okay, so I really hope that I don't need to explain it again. Okay, then I'm declaring another variable that says var total marks is equal to 100. Okay, so like I said, I am assuming that the total marks of that exam is 100, and then in the next statement I'm calculating the percentage of marks, that is var percentage of marks obtained. Again, literally I have put a name which you can understand, and I would recommend you to name your variables in the same way that I have done, so that everybody can, anybody who is reading this code or trying to understand this code can understand what you're trying to write. Okay, rather than he coming to you and asking you the logic. Okay, so try to name your variables like this, something that anybody can understand, rather than naming them some XYZ or ABC or something like that, because then nobody would be able to understand your logic. Okay, so then I've written equal to, and then I've used simple calculation, mathematical calculation to calculate the percentage. What is the formula to calculate the percentage? First, you have to divide the marks obtained divided by total marks into 100%. Okay, so I've written the same formula using JavaScript operators that we learned in the previous discussion. Okay, obviously I put brackets around it to make sure that this division happens first and then multiplication happens and so on. Okay, so then in this statement it calculates the percentage and stores into this variable. Okay, so this variable now holds the percentage of the marks obtained. Now comes the real play of another set of conditionals. So you see another trick that I pulled here. You can actually do this. You can actually create another if-else statement inside a if-else block. Okay, so here we are inside an else block already, right? We are already inside this else block, but inside that also I wanted to perform another check. Okay, so for that I have written another if-else statement in that. So you can do that. You can do it to n number of levels. That's perfectly okay. In JavaScript it's allowed. Okay, although if you are performing a lot of if-else inside each other, that program will definitely not look very good. Okay, so I would not recommend that totally. But yeah, I think in simple cases of one or two if-else inside if-else, that can be done. Okay, so don't worry. Once you write more and more code, you will come across situations where you'll have to make a choice like this, and there can be a number of solutions, like I said, that you can take out. Okay, so I've just taken up a simpler solution here to make your lives easier. Okay, and I've written if percent of marks obtained is greater than 90, then is topper is equal to true, else is topper is equal to false, and then I'm putting an alert message is topper. So that's what is being displayed to you. Okay, so this is how this logic has been written, what you saw in the program. Let me run it again, and show you. So if I hit refresh, enter 85, it says false. That means I'm not a topper. If I enter 94, let's say, it says yes, that is I'm a topper. Okay, or if I enter any other number bigger than 100, it says input a number between 0 to 100, and if I leave it blank, it says invalid input. So I have been able to handle multiple kind of conditions using a simple piece of code, which is this. I would like you to pause this video at this point if you didn't understand that, and go back again and understand this line by line, because this is a little complicated than the programs that you have usually written. Okay, and I sincerely hope that you got it, and now I'll move on to the next part of the discussion. Okay, so and obviously I would highly hope that you are practicing this after the video. Okay, so instead of just writing along with me, you can also probably watch the video, understand, and try to write the program on yourself and run it. And then if you are not able to do that, you can come back to the video and try to see where you were where you made the mistake, right? That's one way of learning. So whatever you choose, that's up to you. Okay, but I would like you to just practice this a lot at your home, the same code. Okay, so that you are really confident in it. And whenever you are writing a piece of code, just don't copy paste it. Okay, don't try to just copy paste it off screen or the study material that is available. Just try to write it on your own so that you fully understand it. Okay, because copy pasting is easy, but understanding it is not. Okay, So this would be my recommended approach to you for learning this kind of things. Okay, so moving on to the next topic. So we saw the use of or statement, but we didn't see and not in action right now. Don't worry, they will come in the programs later on. Okay, so but you now know how to use a logical operator along with the conditional, conditionals that we are learning in this video. Okay, so you have to follow the same syntax and change it according to whatever logic you are trying to write. Okay, let's move on to the next topic. So now the question that comes to my mind is there any shorter way of writing this if else conditions? Because as you have seen in the previous program, they can become a little ugly, to look at, when a lot of if else are involved. So there is a special, operator in JavaScript, that is ternary operator, which can be used instead of an if else statement. To be very honest, in my, experience of writing code, I tend to prefer ternary operators more over if else, because it's just one line which covers both true and false conditions, especially in the cases which are very easy. Okay, so and there's a fun fact that ternary operator is the only JavaScript operator that takes 3 operand. Okay, so the way it works is you have to write condition, okay, and then put a question mark. Okay, obviously you have to enclose these conditions into brackets. Then you have to put a question mark. If the condition is true, then block 1 is called. Okay, block 1 of the code is called. Okay, and if it's false, then block 2 is called. Okay, so this is how you can write. See, the idea is very simple. Whenever there is a condition involved, it either returns true or returns false. Okay, so and based on that we can switch some information or put an alert message or something like that. Okay, so that's what's really doing. Only difference it's just shortening your code into one line rather than writing into 4 different lines. Now I know it may be difficult to understand from this PPT, so I'll just show it to you in the codes that we have written in this discussion. Okay, and this will make sense to you. So I'll just convert my existing code into a much simpler code using ternary operator, much more readable also. Okay, so let's do that. So if I look at this piece of code, this extra if else is really bothering me. Why? Because it's using 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines of code. Okay, and all it's doing is it's assigning the value of isTopper is equal to true or isTopper is equal to false. Okay, so I'm going to just get rid of this and I'm going to write a ternary operator instead of this. Okay, so if I just modify it, okay, it will say, yeah, so instead of writing it using this if else, I've modified it to ternary operator. Okay, so if I look at the change statement, it's just one line of code. It says var isTopper is equal to, okay, so first I'm writing the name of the variable only. Why? Because I really want to store my value into this. Okay, or that's what I was doing in the if else statement also. Then I write the condition inside a bracket. That was the syntax that I showed you in the slide also. That condition has to be written in a bracket and then a question mark has to be put after that. Then I'm assigning the value. So what this statement is really doing is, if it's first checking this condition whether the percentage is greater than 90 or not. If it's true, then it's assigning this value to this variable. If it's false, it's assigning the value to this variable. Okay, so let me just run it in my browser and see what happens. Okay, whether it's giving me the same result or not. So if I open my browser, hit refresh, I press 85, it says false. Okay, and if I say 96, it says true. Okay, so basically it's giving me the same value that I wanted to achieve initially, but instead of writing it in 5 different lines, I am able to write it in one line. So this is primarily what ternary operators are used. They are optional. If you don't want to use them, it's perfectly okay. It would be understandable also, since you are a beginner. If you don't write this statement, it's perfectly okay. You can just use simple if else. But if you want to experiment more, if you want to learn this, this is what I prefer in my experience. Okay, and most of the programmers prefer ternary operators over normal if else in the cases where a simple value assignment has to be done. Okay, I can probably take another example also, or you can practice it at your end. Okay, try to convert the programs that we wrote in this discussion into this, and you can understand that. Okay, So this will give you the same result. Okay, so this is how ternary operators has to be used. Notice the syntax. Again, the syntax is a little tricky. First you have to decide where I want to store the value of whatever is returned. Then you have to specify the condition. Then you have to write the question mark to make sure that this is a ternary operator. Okay, to tell JavaScript that this is a ternary operator. Then you have to write the values based on the condition. Okay, so if the condition is true, I am assigning the value true to isstopper. If the condition is false, I am assigning the value false to isstopper. Okay, and so on. So I guess that's all I wanted to cover in this ternary discussion. Ternary operator discussion. Let's move on to the next topic, that is cases. So how to switch cases using switch statement. Now the question comes to my mind is, what if I have a wide range of condition? Can I create a case based if else? Okay, so yes, you can do that in JavaScript using switch statement. Okay, and this is the syntax that is involved: switch expression case n, and so on. So instead of showing you this way, because that is confusing, I'll just show you in the code. Okay, so I prepared a code for you. So this is the code, and the problem statement is, write a program to show the feedback based on a grade you have got. Okay, so this is a program that displays some particular feedback based on the whatever grade the student has acquired. Okay, so let me, and this looks much more cleaner. Imagine if you had to write these many if else statement, that would be a little cumbersome to look at. Okay, so what I've done is, in this program I've written var grade is equal to what is your grade. So I'm asking a user input in the form of window.prompt, and I'm asking what is your grade, and then I'm alerting the grade, okay, to make sure that I have written the correct grade. And then I'm restoring a variable var result. Okay, and then I'm switching the grade. Okay, whatever grade I input there, I'm switching it in the expression. I'm putting it in brackets here after the switch keyword. Okay, and then I have a curly bracket. Okay, after that inside that curly bracket, I have this statement case A, B, C, D, etc. So before I walk you through this, let me just show you the output of this. So I'll just open it in my browser and show you. Okay, let me just put my browser up, and I'll hit refresh, and now it's asking me what is your grade. I'll say A, and it says A, and it says you have excellent marks. Okay, let me enter B. It says B, and it says you have performed good. Okay, so this is giving me some result in even though I have not used switch if else statement here. Now let me go to the code. Okay, in the code I have declared this something like this. In this switch block, obviously first of all I have to specify what is this switch I'm making. Okay, so in this case I'm making the switch based on grade. Whatever grade is input, I'm making cases based on that. Then I've written this keyword case. Okay, and then I've written some string which is A in this case, and I'm writing result is equal to you have excellent marks. Okay, and I've written break statement. Then I've written declared case B, which says result you have performed good. So what basically this program says is, if the person has got A grade, you have to write this message. If he has got B grade, you have to write this message. If he has got C grade, you have to write this message. For D, you have to write this message. And if none of these cases are true, then you have to show them a default message that this is not a valid input. Okay, so this is just another way of writing if else, technically speaking, but it's more cleaner, it's more useful in the cases where there are a lot of conditions involved. Okay, so again, a few key important points that you have to notice here is, first of all, this break. Okay, after you write the piece of code in a particular case, okay, you have to end it with a break. This is very critical, because if you don't do that, what will happen is it will just automatically move to the next part. Okay, I will encourage you to experiment this, write the same code, but try to delete one of the break statement and see what is the result that you're getting, and you'll be amused by it. Okay, so this is a experiment that you should do on your own. Okay, and you'll get the importance of this break statement, and you'll never forget to put a break here. And also I would highly recommend that you should never miss this default statement, although this is optional in switch. Okay, but it's not recommended to leave this statement. So at the end, when you are done with all the cases, always declare a default statement that handles the case which is an input that you didn't expect. Okay, again, if I run this program in the browser and I put a grade that I have not programmed, that says Z. Okay, it says this Z, and that says it's not a valid input. Okay, so this is how you can write a switch statement. It's neat, it's simple, okay, and it can handle a lot of cases at once. So although technically speaking, in real life programs you will not use switch statement a lot, because generally there are only 2 or 3 conditions, and else if else is faster in the case of 2 or 3 conditions. So like probably if I say for every 10,000 lines or 5,000 lines of code you will be writing this kind of switch statement, not more than that. Obviously that highly depends on the kind of application that you're writing also, but still you'll not find this much common. Okay, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. Okay, I hope the syntax is clear to you, and don't worry, again, like I said, we will be writing a lot of programs later on to practice this again and again, so that you would handle different kind of cases. So let's move on to the next topic. So in this video we learned if else, we learned ternary operator, we learned switch statement. Obviously switch and ternary operator is something that is not commonly found. Okay, ternary is something that is optional, you can write it in place of if else. Okay, that's really your choice. For a beginner I would recommend writing if else only, because it's less confusing. Okay, but later on as you grow I would recommend that you practice ternary operator also. Again, your choice. Okay, but there are certain do's and don'ts that I want to tell you right now, okay, so that you are not making these mistakes in the future, because these are the mistakes that a lot of people do while working with conditionals. Okay, so the first thing is, make sure that your conditions are not contradicting each other. Run them in your brain to make sure that your logic is strong. Okay, so this is very critical. Before writing the logic, you have to run it in your brain, that whether I have really come up with the correct logic or not. And if you are totally satisfied only, then you should write the program in the form of if else. So this is very critical, because sometimes what people do is they write contradicting statement in if and else, and then the program gives you unexpected results or bad results. Okay, so don't do that. Also, second thing is, if else are like a couple, please don't separate them. Okay, so in JavaScript it's optional. If you just want to write if also, no, and not want to declare else, it's allowed. Okay, JavaScript will not give you an error. But and a lot of people, because of this, they exploit this and they just write if some places, and then they don't write else if or else also. Okay, so obviously else if is something that is required only if multiple conditions are there, but I would highly recommend that you should always handle the else case. Okay, never leave that statement, never miss that statement. Always handle the case which you didn't expect. Okay, because that can lead to again bad results and conflicting results, etc. Okay, then another statement is, else if should be embedded carefully. People often write contradicting statements there. Okay, so this is again true. More like 80% of the contradicting statements in while putting conditions in program comes in the else if part. You have to thoroughly check that irrespective of however number of else if you are writing, like you can write probably one else if, two else if, or so on. Like there can be n number of else if conditions, that's not a problem, but you should make sure that whatever those conditions that you have programmed in the else if statement, they should not contradict each other. Okay, and then next part is, don't get into switch and else if else debate. Okay, follow the thumb rule which I have given here. Okay, so this is a very famous debate in industry. Okay, that obviously switch and if else both do the same thing. Okay, which one should I choose and where? Okay, and people have a very big debate over this. Okay, some say that you should use switch statement because it's good looking and it's neater in the syntax, and some say that you should use if else because maybe probably they are faster, etc. Okay, so please don't get into their debate. Since you are beginning with JavaScript programming, this is my rule. Okay, switch is faster when there are too many conditions. Okay, this is not something that I've pulled out of thin air. This is well researched, okay, and well tested, and I've run separate codes to make sure that these statements are true. Okay, so you can follow this thumb rule always. First rule is, switch is faster when there are too many conditions. Use it in case of more than 5 comparison. So if there are more than 5 conditions or 5 comparisons are there in your program, don't use if else, use switch. Okay, and otherwise if it's less than 5 comparison, which is going to be 80% of your cases, you should use if else only. Okay, because that's the most popular choice. Also, in case of boolean values, true false as a result of the condition, if else can be faster, so prefer in that cases. So for example, in my code, if right now I'm switching my grade, but if instead of this grade I had to switch some true false condition, don't use switch statement, use if else, because if else is faster. Okay, so that is another thumb rule that I will give you. So these are the do's and don'ts that you have to follow, okay, while writing the program. Just memorize them, okay, and next time you write a conditional statement on your own, whether it's because you are practicing JavaScript on your own, or you are writing your assignment or something like that, make sure that you are not writing contradicting statement, because that will be a flawed logic and that will reduce your marks or give you bad results, etc. Okay, so these are the do's and don'ts that you have to follow while writing conditions in the program in JavaScript. Okay, so that would be all for conditionals, and in the next discussion we'll cover loops, which is yet another very important concept in JavaScript programming and in programming in general. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this discussion. This was something new, this was something refreshing, there was something difficult in comparison to what we have done. Okay, and I sincerely hope that you'll practice it on your own. Okay, try to write all the conditions that I've written in the program, and also the ones that I'm not. In the first slide I give you a few conditions. You can practice them on your own. Okay, and be confident in conditionals more. Okay, so thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.